Hey guys, Stumpy here. This is my Biomes editing tutorial. So first we're going to jump straight into the Biome section of my site, and I'll just cover quickly some of the more esoteric parts of it. So under the Biomes POIs section there's three bits really to look at: city asphalt, country road asphalt and road gravel. I believe the rest are only important as far as nervous gain, so if you're just doing random wheel gen, just look at the road section. And the main part of course is city asphalt will be the roads used in the cities, country road is the ones that connect the cities, and road gravel is the pathways to the wilderness POIs. So if we just have a quick look in here, all I have in here is some decals and a block. So asphalt, if you wanted to change it to something other than asphalt, that's the bit that you want to change. The block on top being loot street or random cars is what places the cars and trash bags and other random bits and pieces on top of the road. All of the decals are just the random decorations that you can't interact with. 9 and 10 are the double yellow lines, so that's why I set the probability 0 so they don't show up. You can set any of these other ones to 0 and they won't show up. For example, in the medieval worlds, wrong one. I've set the decals to only be ones that would be appropriate for such a setting, so all of the newspapers and stuff are gone and just left in all of the gore and blood splatters. So just trial and error to work out which ones are which. And yeah, as you can see, I've changed the containers or the block on tops to be different things like animal gore and corpses and stuff instead of cars. So yeah, country road's pretty much the same as the city road, and then gravel roads are obviously gravel is the block instead of asphalt, but otherwise the same. The colours here I think are only relevant to nervous gain, so don't bother changing those. The weather section here, all that does is change the temperature slightly when it's raining, so nothing worth looking at there. As far as the biome maps go, I wouldn't bother changing any of those. You'll probably end up messing something up if you do. One thing you could potentially do is generate your world first and then change the ID that matches the biome name, and that would change all of the existing biomes to that one, but that would probably give you some weird results, so I wouldn't really look at changing any of that. And you also can't add a 15th for beyond to the biomes. You're limited to 14. That's going to cause errors if you try and add more, and changing the biome names will also cause errors. Every time you enter a biome it looks for a sound based on the biome name, and if you change the name it won't find that sound and you'll get a pop-up error every time you change biomes. The map colour, once again if you change that it will mess with nervous gain. If you change it for random world gen it should be fine. It will just mean the colours that show up in your mini-map will look a bit different. Okay, so let's jump into forest. So the weather section supposedly controls some of the settings for the biomes, but I've heard people tell that the DLL has some hard-coded stuff in there. So for example, temperature, while forest is meant to be -7, it also probably has a setting in the DLL that affects that. And changing things like fog and cloud thickness, precipitation, I've set it to min 0, max 0, probability 1 and nothing else, and it still rains, so I'm not even sure if any of that actually works at the moment. I'll just change views to one that's a bit easier to look at. So the spectrum is what determines the colours of the sky and things like that. The terrain I'm not sure it actually does anything anymore. It used to have various settings that would allow you to have like desert was fairly rolling hills, plains used to have the big messes and things like that, but they're pretty much not there anymore. It's all just one setting for the whole world. I'll just minimise these for a second. Okay, so there's only one sub-biome in the forest, which is the clay splotches you see everywhere. So you can add as many sub-biomes as you want, and the probability is what determines how often they show up. So if it seems to be a probability between 0 and 1, so the more sub-biomes you have, the less overall percentage, or probability rather, that you have to work with. It doesn't really seem to be linear, so the one that comes first seems to affect the ones that are further down. So if, for example, I went, say, 2 there and had 0.5 here, that would generally create clay everywhere and you wouldn't see much of the 0.22s. Okay, what else we got? So layers, which work the same as the main biome itself. It was the layer that's on starting from the top down, so there'll be up to 5 blocks deep of clay in these sub-biomes. The decorations determine what blocks are placed on top of the ground. So in this clay sub-biome, the tall grass has a 0.5 probability, which means it's pretty much going to cover just about everything that's not a different type of block. If you set that to 1, it will basically be grass absolutely everywhere apart from where it's squeezed another different blocks first. The type can be either block or prefab. If you set it to prefab, then you need to change block name to just name and specify a prefab. You can use any prefab. Bigger ones have a lesser chance of finding enough room to spawn, but they can actually be huge and still spawn. I've had I think the school, which is about 135 blocks, has spawned as a biome decoration. One thing to keep in mind, that if you have a loot placeholder block in any of these prefabs, they won't be changed into the target block. They'll still be the brightly coloured loot placeholder block, which will look completely out of place. So if you do use a prefab like this one, then be aware that it could end up with those blocks that don't translate, and the probability obviously is fairly low, so you don't want them to pop up everywhere. What else have we got? Rotate max doesn't apply to prefabs, but on the blocks you can set that. I'm not quite sure what the numbers do, but I assume it's essentially 3 means it will only do north, south, east and west, and 7 will have the diagonal directions as well. If we look at the node list, you'll find that the only settings for the rotate max are either 3 or 7, or nothing set at all. Okay, so that's the sub-biome, and then obviously the main biome itself has the same sort of makeup. So in the what are we looking at? Forest biome, you can find the rock forms, coal and potassium. So those little chunks of coal and potassium that you find on the surface, that's done by the prefabs, and then the big resource rocks are the same. And the loot forest is a placeholder block, so that's where you get your duffel bags and backpacks and trash bags and so on. The trees are all done through that as well. So if you wanted to have heaps of trees in a thing, you could reduce the increase the probability by doing that, and then you get a lot more of those trees. I did one biome that had it, I think it was 0.02 for for the trees, and it was just like a completely covered in trees everywhere. Keep in mind, trees do have a big decoration radius of about 5 blocks, so no other tree will spawn within 5 blocks of it. And yeah, also if you're using the prefabs, then especially with the bigger the prefab is, the more likely it is to have parts of it missing or overlapping with other prefabs. So that's the decorations. The layers, changing that doesn't seem to have any effect at the moment, so I think it's actually hard coded to always be about the same level of order. I think it was 29 on the map view for the height, so I was hoping you could reduce that to say 10, and then you'd only get really deep sections of the map with water, but it didn't seem to change anything. The layers, you have essentially starting from the bottom of the map and working upwards, so bedrock 3 layers thick. You could potentially make that 1, it doesn't really matter unless you can blow a hole through it. The star depth is the important bit. If you don't have anything with a star, then if the terrain height is more than the total number of layers you've defined in blocks, then you'll get air bubbles underneath your bedrock, and anything you try and build on top will instantly collapse. So always have the star layer in there. In this case, we have 4 layers of grass on the top, followed by another 3 layers of dirt, and then stone all the way down to bedrock. Within that stone layer you can, well, doesn't matter where you put it, but in the stone layer you have the resource blocks, which is where you get your ores and stuff. You could make that any block what you want to show up. The cluster can be 1 or 2. The cipher told me if you set it to 3 it starts giving you all sorts of problems, so keep that in mind. If you try and use a bigger cluster size than 2, you're probably going to have issues unless they've fixed that. I haven't tested it myself. The probability is obviously how often those resource blocks show up, and generation type can be all or noise. All means it will show up everywhere, whereas noise is only in caves. I think that pretty much covers that part of it. I'll just have a look at a different biome to show you the differences. So the pine forest has 2 subbiomes. One is a grass layer which has the resource rocks in a higher percentage. If we look down in the main biome decorations, you can see that it's 0.0001 compared to 0.025. So in these grass subbiomes you'll find a lot higher concentration of the rocks and cotton and goldenrod, and in the clay one you get the same thing, only difference being you have a layer of clay instead of the layer of grass. And if we just go into the snow biome, see that the top layer of the snow biome is where is it? There's 4 layers of snow, with a potential of having some clay to be found in the dirt layer, and then iron, coal and gravel only is in the stone layer, so you can't find potassium or lead in the snow layers, or in the snow biome I should say. So let's actually, while we're on the screen, there's the city and city wasteland biomes I believe are not used at all, so you can potentially repurpose those for other designs and not affect any of the existing biomes. Wasteland Hub is the biome that is found in cities, and about 100 or so blocks out from the city will be Wasteland Hub. And water, rather than defining that one to spawn, it automatically spawns when the terrain reaches a certain level, which is the 60 blocks limit, or 29 on the height for the map view. Cave floor and cave ceiling are special biomes that make up the floors and ceilings of the caves, which is how it tells it to put the stalagmites and mushrooms and Apache chest and so on, and apparently campfires. And does it still have it? So the RG Cave Spawn 01, I'm not sure if it still works, but it used to be what spawned the zombies inside the caves themselves. I had problems getting it to work properly recently, but I haven't tried it in the last few versions, so it might be working now. And all that prefab is a single air block with a static spawner class attached to it of Spawn Cave. Actually, while we're talking about that, if we look at the spawning XML, so the first section is the biomes, second section being the entity spawners. So Spawn Cave, as you can see, has Zombies Cave group, which has Feral and a couple of other old boy zombies, and apparently a bear. Although having said that, I don't remember seeing a feral or a bear in the cave in Alpha 14, so that's why I suspect it may not be working at the moment. And the biome spawners is what determines the frequency and makeup of the different biomes zombies. Keep in mind that the biome spawners are what you get when you wander around, whereas the entity spawners that are attached to points of interest are the ones that show up at the different locations. So if we go to snow biome, for example, under the spawners, it has the snow zombies, which will have at max 1 in each section, and 4 days respawn delay. So that means that if you clear out an area, it will be clear of zombies for 4 days, unless a horde or something comes along. And same thing with animals, 1 animal per area with an 8-day delay. I think snow's the best one with 8 days, everything else is about 15. Alright, don't need that. And I guess the last bit to cover would be the mixer settings for biomes. So in the mixer we have a biome spawn rules. This is the part that lets you define which biomes can be found in the world. Keep in mind that I think burnt forest is still hard coded to spawn, and this is vanilla and there's no snow biome, so I guess snow is also hard coded to spawn. If you took out plains, forest, wasteland, desert and pine forest, you'd pretty much end up with a world that was only burnt forest and snow biomes and water. So if we go into Stone World, there it is, and have a look at the biomes. So all I've done with this one is pretty much copied and pasted the same details for each of the biomes that are all the same. And what this does is create one layer of, or essentially one layer of stone on top. You could change that to a different block and make the top layer whatever you wanted, and then the rest is just stone with no minerals or anything, resources found in it, and then obviously the bedrock at the bottom. And yeah, even though I've set fill up to RG1, it still has normal lakes and stuff, unfortunately. And yeah, as you can see, I've set the precipitation to 0 with probability 1, and it still rains, so that's why I don't know if that one actually works at the moment. And as you can see here, I've only got forest defined, but since all the biomes look the same, that doesn't really matter for this one. So I guess what we could do is edit the forest biome, or just chuck in some more sub-biomes. You can make that, I'm not sure, but I think they may have fixed it, but previously when you do fertile dirt it has all sorts of issues, but so say you wanted to have a sub-biome that was all lead. Oops. And another one that's fertile dirt and had heaps of trees. And we'll make this one quite high probability. We'll keep the grass in there, and we'll really crank up the probabilities. So what this will do is create a nice thick sublayer, and actually while we're at it, we'll add this sub-biome to the burnt forest. Of course. If we can find it. That's what I hate about editing XML in the notepad. Plains, desert, eventually water. I've probably just gone right past it, never know. Oh, here we go. So we've got two sub-biomes already, but what we could do is add a nice, so it's going to have fertile grass and heaps of trees. We'll take out the mopals, and it's a nice high probability. We'll go for 0.5. So we'll just fire that up. And see if we've broken anything in our hasty edits. So when you're in the game, you can push F3 to get the little head-up display of what biome you're in and stuff like that. If you're in non-creative mode, you can type DMT into debug menu first. Debug mode. Come on, hurry up. Come on, why is it taking so long? going to do. Yeah, we did have all those in there. Oh, and the other thing I've done is just change the movement factor of air to 10. Finally. So when I fly around I can go really fast. There we go. So there's our sub-biome of lead. And yes, we're in the forest, as was made evident by the chirping sounds. So there's our sub-biome with the fertile dirt, and as you can see it's got quite a few more trees. So yeah, once you go over to water, it changes to water biome. And because the probability on the lead was fairly low, was it? What did we set it to? So 0.11, whereas 0.33 for the fertile dirt, and as you can see 0.11 are fairly small, whereas the 0.33 were bigger. So we'll just teleport around a bit and see what we can find. There's a cave. Alright, what a hole. So now we're in the burnt forest. And as you can see we're getting some nice big patches of trees amongst the burnt forest, and in fact because we set it to 0.5 it generally makes the sub-biomes more common than the actual biome itself. So it's just the regular biome there, and then it's the sub-biome for burnt forest. So you still get the same ambience of sound and wafting smoke and stuff. And a hole in the ground. So that's our cave. Which, so even though we're in a cave, it doesn't actually have the cave biome. It keeps it as whatever you were originally in. Struggling a bit to record a video and generate the world at the same time. And then if we teleport to the hub somewhere, there we go. I love that when you teleport into a hub, it often leaves the terrain at the original height on the chunk that you teleport onto, which can make some interesting little things like that. So yeah, as you can see we're in the Wasteland hub now. Anyway, that pretty much covers all of the specifics of biomes. And I believe I've broken my world anyway, so I'll leave the video there. Thanks for watching, and hit the like button if you enjoyed it.